And here we go with the wind down of the Gary Russen program on GJRB. Let's see as we wrap things up here on our final part of the program. Our GJRB online Gary Russen program Saturday Extra. We're going to be closing out the show here pretty soon. And just take this time. And we might just go a little over because I'm the only one on here at this point. And it'll probably be... no one following me, so I'm going to call it quits at that point. But kick back a little bit, go over to my TuneIn, and I go and flip my frequency over to 107.1, which is my memories nostalgia format, and throw in, put on cable San Francisco, KABL. They have a show on a whole few, I don't know how many hours. Absolutely, how many hours they do, dedicated to Frank Sinatra. It's called The Sounds of Sinatra. It's absolutely fabulous. It's on KABL in San Francisco, and it's on TuneIn. So go into TuneIn and just type in KABL, that's San Francisco, and they have The Sounds of Sinatra. Absolutely fabulous show. And it's coming up next on KABL in San Francisco on TuneIn. Absolutely fabulous show. It really is. And then later on tonight, on the 9-foot closed circuit on 107.1, WGN Radio Theater with Carl Amari and Lisa Wolf. They got some old-time radio classics. And, of course, speaking of old-time radio classics, I mentioned here in that promo earlier, Radio Land is coming up next week. Yeah, that's right. Tuesday. We're going to be on the air at 1 o'clock Central Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 o'clock Eastern for some classic radio. Oh, yeah, you better believe it. Some of the programs are going to bring you. Check this out. Starting off with mystery. We're going to start off with The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, going back to August 6, 1949, for an episode called The August Lion. Then right after that's over, we're going to do Sherlock Holmes. Times Unknown, The Adventures of the Missing Bloodstains. Sherlock Holmes. Now, I think this is Basil Rathbone doing this part, and he was Sherlock Holmes on the radio. And absolutely, I've listened to a lot of these Sherlock Holmes, and they are real good shows. They are absolutely fabulous. Then right after that's over, we have Classic Radio continues on Radio Land, and we go to Westerns, and I'll have an episode of Gunsmoke. From, let me see, I think it's March 19th, 1955, I believe. Episode called A Mistake, followed by Tales of the Texas Rangers from July 8th, 1950. Episode called Just a Number. Then we're going to play some old radio soap operas. Yeah. I do that once in a while. Play some old radio soap operas. They're fabulous. We're going to play a radio episode of The Guiding Light. And these are the early episodes, as a matter of fact. I think this was, let me see if I can check that out. Episode number. It would be episode number 792 and 793 of The Guiding Light on radio. And then they had a radio soap opera that was kind of Christian related. Did you know that back in the day they had a Christian soap opera? It was called A Brighter Day. It was a fabulous radio soap opera. And then right after that, we're going to do some quiz shows and bring you an episode of Groucho Marx and You Bet Your Life. And the secret word is milk. It's from, let's see, You Bet Your Life. It'll be from 1949, I think, or let me see what, the month, year, sometime. Oh, yeah, here it is, 1950. 1950, and it would be January 11th. 1950. Episode January 11th, 1950, You Bet Your Life. Secret word is milk. And then, I remember Can You Top This when it was hosted by Wink Martindale. Remember that when it was a syndicated series? I can't remember what, it was a syndicator. It was on, independent stations ran it, or it was on a syndicated running on a local station. And it was a good show. Actually, I used to like to watch it because I thought it was funny. Wink Martindale hosted. They had a line of guests and people, I guess, who were comedians. They had the top. Who could be funnier. I think that's how that went. Anyway, a fabulous show. Can you top this? And they usually pick a topic like restaurant. Like this one's going to be restaurants. It originally aired on, I believe, April 21st, 1942. So we're going back to 1942 for that one. So that's on Radioland Tuesday, right here on GJRB Online, here on Spreaker, to bring you classic radio at its best. Radioland on GJRB. Some of them older game shows are a trip. Still hilarious if you have the frame of reference to the sense of humor. Yeah. But do you remember? I remember. Can you top this? It was a Wink Martindale hosted it. It was a TV version in the 1970s, and it was a syndicated independent ran it. And I know in Pittsburgh it ran on Channel 53, which was our independent in those days. Back in the early days of UHF, which that was the heyday. That was fabulous. Anyway, can you top this? Great show. And of course, You Bet Your Life is a classic. Oh man, I'm telling you what, that is a classic. NBC, Groucho Marx was fabulous on that show. Absolutely listen to that. It's great. But The Adventures of Philip Marlowe starts it off with Mystery on Tuesday, 1 o'clock Central, right here on GJRB Online for Radioland. And then later on in the week, we're going to have the last 7 days. And I'm not sure exactly what's going to be on there because we got canceled last week. We have these meetings at our church called the last 7 days, talking about what's going on in the news and how it pertains to the Bible prophecy. Things happen and our pastor cancels. So usually what happens is I'll repeat the one I have up now, and I'll rerun it live. So I'll probably have that on, followed by my show Way Out There, which will be my Halloween show, The Strange, the Bizarre, the Unusual. Got a couple of really good stuff on there. Some strange stories, too. In the days of UHF, when you would have your kids stand by the TV holding an antenna in a painful position, and he or she would dare to move in fear of getting whooped for losing the signal. That's it. And if it got real windy, you couldn't watch it at all. Forget it. Yeah, we were the remote control. Yep. If it got windy on a windy day, don't even bother watching the UHF channel. Now, I'm from Pittsburgh. We had Channel 53. That was our independent for a long time, Pittsburgh. And then here in the Quad Cities, they didn't have an independent station till the 70s. But we had it for in a long time in Pittsburgh, Channel 53. And then in the 70s, Channel 22. If you've ever seen I'm being from Pittsburgh now, I'm talking Pittsburgh. If you've ever seen the movie Flashdance, if a storm came, no TV at all. Yeah, you're right. If you remember the movie Flashdance, in the scene where she's practicing in her, I think her home. Anyway, when she was practicing in her home, there's a scene there where she has her TV on, and you see the ID for WPTT Channel 22. That's an actual ID. That's an actual station. Channel 22 was another independent station in Pittsburgh. Hurricane, several states away, no TV. But you know what, Ed? What I miss about analog TV, if you had a day when it was humid, bizarre conditions, whatever they call that, and what we did was called TV skip, pulling in channels from hundreds of miles away. I used to get channels. There could be a day when I would pull up. Now, I lived here in Clinton for like about 10 years plus. And lived here for quite a while. And I had a regular TV back in there, and I had an extra antenna, and I played around with it and did some double antennas. I was pulling in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I was getting Milwaukee way here in Clinton. I get days where I would pull in. And there's a hobby like that. There's even actually there's a Facebook page dedicated to it. It's called TVDX. You know what I would miss about analog TV? Not having to pay for it extra. Yeah, I agree with that. But get faraway stations. When I had analog TV, to get faraway stations, hundreds of miles away, and not paying for it. Getting more channels without paying for it. And these were channels way out in what, like I said, I was getting Wisconsin. When I lived in Pittsburgh, I used to get Ohio stations deep into Ohio. I used to pull in Cleveland. When I lived in Cleveland, I used to get Detroit, Channel 50. Oh yeah, I was in hog heaven, man. I'm telling you, because I lived in Cleveland. Channel 50 would come in from Detroit, and I used to watch this guy. I can't remember his name now. He ran the horror movies. What do they call him down there? Oh man, he was big in Cleveland. Anyway, we used to get all kinds of stations, and one time we had a tornado warning in Pittsburgh. And I went over, and I used to have a little TV. I had one of them little ones. That was kind of, remember those little TVs that ran on batteries and electric? And you could go camping with those things. Had a little screen. And I had a small set. And I was pulled in one day, honest to God. This is Ambridge, Pennsylvania, my hometown. I was living there in my bedroom at home, and I pulled in KXAS TV Channel 5 out of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, from Pittsburgh. DX, the signal was that signal. Skip. I was getting skip from all over the place, and I used to love to do that. Just getting into channels and see what was coming in. It was great. And I sent him a letter, told him I picked him up later, and I got a letter back. KXAS Channel 5, NBC affiliate, Dallas. It was cool. Anyway, you're listening to the Gary Russen program on GJRB Online here on Spreaker across America. Yeah, everyone got WGN from Chicago. Watch Bozo the Clown every morning. Yeah, and then, of course, WGN became Superstation, and then you had to pay to get that. And my father was one of those. Oh, boy. We didn't have cable in our house, at least until I left home. My dad just did not want cable because he said that was just another bill. I used to love late-night local TV. There would be 2 Borrow films followed by 2 Kung Fu movies, and Sunday was all Godzilla and horrible Japanese sci-fi movies, retro movies. Yeah, well, you had in Pittsburgh, our Godzilla movies were on Saturdays. And then we had Channel 53, and then we had Channel 11, which is our NBC affiliate. Like I told you earlier about Bill Cardille, he had a horror show every Saturday night, 2 movies back-to-back called Chiller Theater. It was on Channel 11, WIIC, then later WPXI. And he had Chiller Theater for years. And Bill Cardille he just died here a number of years ago. He was also a disc jockey in Pittsburgh. I mean, this guy was busy in broadcasting. He was fabulous. He was my hero. He was absolutely cool. Bill Cardille. And miss him. I had a chance to meet him because my mother told me a story about how she dated him before he was big. I thought, wow, wouldn't it have just been cool if I would have had a chance to meet him? He would have been just my pole. What a shame. Anyway, you got the Gary Russen program, Saturday Extra on GJRB Online. Just going a little overtime talking about old TV, the way it used to be before the money makers, the so-called money grabbers, took a hold of it and made it into nothing but a monopoly. You know, Monopoly games. How's it got Monopoly games? You don't get a chance to buy a TV station or a radio station. You might as well buy now. I mean, just saying. Oh man, or a cable company. Yeah, even that too. Yeah. I mean, that would have been something they just should be added into Monopoly. Okay, you got the Gary Russen program on GJRB Online here on Spreaker across America and around the world. We're going to be closing out here pretty soon, and we'll be back with another edition of the Gary Russen program, Saturday Extra, here real soon in November. Got a bunch of stuff coming up in November, including an encore presentation of the best of jazz. Vietnam veterans who became jazz musicians, that served in the military. And I've got a whole string of those, including Glenn Miller. And we're going to go back and play some of those really good ones. So stay tuned for that. And then I've got the return of Swing Time. That's my big band show. Got that coming back on the air. Got a lot of good stuff coming up in November. Trying to wrangle in some of the best programs. Now, what I'm trying to do is air these programs and some of the programs, because I'm thinking about some of the ones to eliminate and some of the ones to keep because I got too many shows. So I'm kind of taking some of the shows that I think people would like, and then some of the other shows that I think are just a waste of time for one other reason other than they are. My trivia show, the radio, television, movie classics, I'll keep. Crooners I'm going to keep, even though I don't get that many listeners on radio, television, and movie classics, and what a shame, as I do trivia. I listen to those podcasts. They're available yet. And the mystery questions are there in the last part, and you can try to answer those. Those are quiz show trivia questions, by the way. So you can go in there and answer those, and I'll give you on-air acknowledgement. So those will still be available. I'm going to delete shows all the way up to October to make room for more shows. And then in November, once I ride through November into the holiday season, when I start Bright Holiday, which is my Christmas promotion, it's going to be great because then we're going to bump up to that 3-hour broadcaster plan, and I'll be able to do a lot of great Christmas music and holiday stuff. So it'll be Christmas songs and Christmas music and Christmas stories. The encore presentation, every year I run it again. It's another tradition, just like War of the Worlds. I'll be running that one on the 29th or the 30th. I'm going to rerun War of the Worlds. And following War of the Worlds, I'm going to bring you Inner Sanctum and Lights Out. Those are two great classic scary radio programs. And then going to follow that up. Those are great shows. Oh, no kidding. I mean, I got spooked by a lot of those. The other one you got to check out is one I'm going to play. I'm going to try to see if I can get away with playing it. Even though it's just from the 70s, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try to find. I know where I can find them. And it's Mutual Network. It's the old Mutual Network, so I really don't care. I mean, they're defunct anyway. Rod Serling, who did The Twilight Zone, had a radio series on the old Mutual Network. The show was called The 0 Hour. Now, I remember listening to this. Our WNBA, our hometown station, used to play this on Sunday. The 0 Hour was an absolutely fabulous 30-minute radio stories. They were fabulous. He did science fiction. I think he did a lot of adaptations of Isaac Asimov. I mean, they were fabulous. Ray Bradbury. I mean, these were great shows. It was hosted by Rod Serling, famous for The Twilight Zone, and it was on the Mutual Network on the radio. It was called The 0 Hour. And then the other one I used to listen to every night, I'm gonna run it. I don't care. I'm gonna run it. And that's E.G. Marshall, the CBS Radio Mystery Theater. Oh man, those were great shows. CBS Radio Mystery Theater, a lot of guest stars on that. Jessica Walters, the guy who played Herman Munster, Fred Gwynn, had part on this. 1 hour drama. I had to go to bed early, I had to go to school, but I'll tell you what, I think that was my bedtime story. Was I used to flip over to the local station back home, Pittsburgh, WWSW, at 10:07 p.m. They were a CBS affiliate. 10:07. You heard that creaking door. It was time for the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, and I used to love that program. Oh, man. And they're available. I can get them. They're there. CBS Radio Mystery Theater. Some of the stuff coming up for Halloween on GJRB Online. So we've got some good stuff coming up. So check that out. Old time radio at its best and radio drama right here on Spreaker on GJRB Online. And then in November, we're going to bring you some good stuff. And we get into the holiday season. Well, I don't know. Might as well. It's, happy Halloween. Was it Hallow Thanksgiving Ween? Something like that. I mean, we just combined all these holidays anyway. What the heck? But, you go into the stores and they already got the Christmas trees up. It's amazing. It's just amazing. Anyway, we're going to probably around Thanksgiving start sneaking in a few Christmas songs in there. You never know. Just come out and put it in the rotation. But that's coming up. So we got some good stuff coming up here on GJRB Online. So check it out. Some good shows. Play some music. Have some good time way out there. And some of my music shows, I'll throw in the Monster Mash and Running Bear, and I'll play all oddball stuff like One-Eye, One-Horn, Flying Purple People Eater, one of the best parody tunes ever. I'm telling you, love that song. And other really good oddball tunes. So tune in for that throughout Halloween here on GJRB Online. We'll play some bogus stuff. And actually, I used to do a show on my old station called Flip Sides where I play the turnover sides of 45 RPMs I had. And on the other side of the Monster Mash was a song called the Monster Mash Party. It was on the turnover side of the Monster Mash 45 RPM record. I had that one. And I had to post this to you too, Ed. Did you ever see a record player that was so small that it played these small, teeny little records? It's hilarious. I had to post that. It's terrific. I can't believe people actually had these things, but they did. These records were so small that they kind of fit in the palm of your hand. I can't believe these records actually played. This is weird. Anyway, I'm going to post that later. I'm going to be talking about that on my next radio, television, movie classics, as a matter of fact, under Americana, which was and is no more, because you don't see these things no more. These were little record players, and they played these little records. It was like a freaking toy record player. It was hilarious. Anyway, we'll have that one coming up in the whole lot. But some of them came with radios too, AM radios. So that's for fabulous. And of course, we'll have to tune in every night to AM radio after dark. That's another thing I miss too. AM radio at night. And I used to pull in WLS, CKLW out of Windsor, Detroit. That was a powerhouse. CKLW. As a matter of fact, the guy Byron McGregor was the one who made a big hit record as an editorial called Americans, which I gotta play again. I haven't played that in a long time. I had that record. It's my Dusty 45 collection. I gotta dig that up. Let me see if I can find that. Let me see. I'm gonna go to my YouTube for a minute. Let me see. Absolutely fabulous recording. When the editorial actually hit the pop charts. Let me see here. I'm going to go to my YouTube real quick, because I'm going to be closing out anyway and get ready to finish up this show. nothing else following me, so I'm going to kind of close it out here. Let's see here. I'm going to bring that up. I thought I had SoundClick up there. Where's my YouTube? Here it is. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to go to my YouTube here real quick and see if I can find it. The smallest ones I remember were the ones that played on the cardboard from a cereal box, EPs. They played, but they were terrible. Yeah. Yeah, those were those, you know what, and not only that, the needle would wear the record down so that the turntable went around, but the record didn't. That was hilarious. I used to get mad at that, but you know, when you really think about it, it was darn stinking funny, because you would put the record on the needle on the record, and the record would go, it just couldn't barely get started. It was funny, I'm telling you. Oh, man. Hey, we have BJ McNamara, otherwise known as our one and only BJ. He's fabulous. Black Dragons Radio just joined me in the messenger on my Facebook. Wait for him to come up here real soon. While I'm doing that, I'm going to get that ready. Let's see, I think it was called The Americans. Let me see if it was called The Americans. Let's see here. Or Americans. Byron McGregor. Yeah. Here it is. I think it is. Because I had this on the 45. Haven't played this in the Coons age. Absolutely fabulous editorial. 45 RPM. Came out in 1973. Let's bring it back. The Americans, Byron McGregor, on the Gary Russen program, Saturday Extra.
The United States dollar took another pounding on German, French, and British exchanges this morning, hitting the lowest point ever known in West Germany. It has declined there by 41% since 1971, and this Canadian thinks it's time to speak up for the Americans as the most generous and possibly the least appreciated people in all the earth. As long as 60 years ago, when I first started to read newspapers, I read of floods on the Yellow River and the Yangtze. Who rushed in with men and money to help? The Americans did. They have helped control floods on the Nile, the Amazon, the Ganges, and the Niger. Today, the rich bottomland of the Mississippi is underwater, and no foreign land has sent a dollar to help. Germany, Japan, and to a lesser extent, Britain and Italy were lifted out of the debris of war by the Americans, who poured in billions of dollars and forgave other billions in debts. None of those countries is today paying even the interest on its remaining debts to the United States. When the franc was in danger of collapsing in 1956, it was the Americans who propped it up, and their reward was to be insulted and swindled on the streets of Paris. I was there. I saw it. When distant cities are hit by earthquake, it is the United States that hurries in to help. Managua, Nicaragua is one of the most recent examples. So far this spring, 59 American communities have been flattened by tornadoes. Nobody has helped. The Marshall Plan, the Truman Policy, all pumped billions upon billions of dollars into discouraged countries. Now newspapers in those countries are writing about the decadent, war-mongering Americans. I'd like to see just one of those countries that is gloating over the erosion of the United States dollar build its own airplanes. Come on, let's hear it. Does any other country in the world have a plane to equal the Boeing Jumbo Jet, the Lockheed TriStar, or the Douglas 10? If so, why don't they fly them? Why do all international lines except Russia fly American planes? Why does no other land on Earth even consider putting a man or woman on the moon? You talk about Japanese technocracy and you get radios. You talk about German technocracy and you get automobiles. You talk about American technocracy and you will find men on the moon, not once, but several times, and safely home again. You talk about scandals, and the Americans put theirs right in the store window for everybody to look at. Even the draft dodgers are not pursued and hounded. They are here on our streets, most of them, unless they are breaking Canadian laws, are getting American dollars from Ma and Pa at home to spend here. When the Americans get out of this bind, as they will, who could blame them if they said, the hell with the rest of the world? Let someone else buy the foreign bonds. Let someone else build or repair foreign dams or design foreign buildings that won't shake apart in earthquakes. When the railways of France, Germany, and India were breaking down through age, it was the Americans who rebuilt them. When the Pennsylvania Railroad and the New York Central went broke, nobody loaned them an old caboose. Both are still broke. I can name you 5,000 times when the Americans raced to the help of other people in trouble. Can you name me even one time when someone else raced to the Americans in trouble? I don't think there was outside help even during the San Francisco earthquake. Our neighbors have faced it alone. And I'm one Canadian who's damned tired of hearing them kicked around. They will come out of this thing with their flag high. And when they do, they are entitled to thumb their nose at the lands that are gloating over their present troubles. I hope Canada is not one of these, but there are many smug, self-righteous Canadians. And finally, the American Red Cross was told at its 48th annual meeting in New Orleans that it was broke. This year's disasters have taken it all, and nobody has helped.
Oh man, that was a fabulous record. And they played that to death on a lot of radio stations. And I'll tell you what, that was, and I'm not sure exactly what peaked and where it peaked at, but I believe it did reach the top 10, 1973. Absolutely fabulous. The Americans, that is Byron McGregor, who was a news director at CKLW, Windsor, Canada, which is part of the Detroit radio market. They reached Detroit, but they were a powerhouse. I mean, that station was a blowtorch. You could hear that anywhere, practically in the country. They were a great station. I used to listen to them, and they had the format. They had the format 2020 News, which was where they did news. I think was every 20 minutes. Which I don't think any other station, that format's gone. But it was a lot of top 40 stations were trying to compete with the other radio stations to get audience. They figured if radio stations would have the news at 20 after and again at 22 the hour, and then there was music until 20 after the next hour, the radio stations would get audience, because when the other radio stations were going to news at the top of the hour, people would flip to their station. And one station in Pittsburgh did do 2020 News, and that was WTAE for a lot of years. All right, this is the Gary Russen program on GJRB Online. Here on Spreaker, we're going to be wrapping things up. I was, like I say, I had Messenger in there. BJ sent me something, and now I can't find that message. Where is it? Oh, where did it go? Okay, talking about big, yeah. Okay, well, I want to go down further than that. Okay. I do have happy news. I've decided on doing, you'll eventually get to Podbean. That's the name of it. Perhaps in coming year, and I'll deal with that. Okay, that is that's another podcast site. I was just looking at that. I don't know if you've heard of BJ Ed, but he has a station. He's just north of OBFSU. As a matter of fact, he knows OBFSU. That is BJ, Black Dragons Radio. And he is going to another podcast site called Podbeam. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I checked it out, but again, this is a site that I would probably use to get more listeners and still stay with Spreaker, because there's no way of broadcasting live on there. And quite frankly, like I said before, I want to do podcasting live, and they don't really do that on this Podbeam. You have to more or less just take your recording over there, just recorded podcast, but nothing live. And I like being on live. And the funnest thing is to do this thing live. So I'm just going to be expanding Spreaker, like I said, in December, when we get into the holiday programming, we'll be popping up to that 3-hour plan and going to broadcaster, so we'll be having more space. But like I said before, I'm getting rid of all my July, all my August, some of my summer programming, including mostly my September, early September programming, and a good half of October to make room for more podcasts. I'll be working on that one. All right, tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to close the end here of the program. I'm going to be closing out here real soon, but I wanted to thank Ed Delgado for joining me in the chat room here on Spreaker. And I don't know if BJ is listening, but he is on the my Facebook Messenger. He was saying he's going to go to the Podbeam, talking about rap music on Spreaker. In some of the stations, like I said before, I'm not a rap person. I never will be. I like some of it, but I like the early old school rap, the classics, like some of the real early stuff. But then rap kind of got convoluted after that. But like some of the early stuff isn't bad. Some of the really Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and stuff like that wasn't too bad. And MC Hammer wasn't too bad. I did like him. But once I think rap just kind of got a little convoluted. It got too dirty, it got too filthy, and it just all about degrading women. And that's pretty much what rap is. And that's why it ruined the music industry as far as I'm concerned. Because as soon as rap became popular, look what happened to real music. Really, what happened to real music? It died. It died when rap became big. And that's when I turned to country. And I started listening to country music. And then they say they wanted to make country rap. I said, don't do that. Because I will never listen to music again. Other than music from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Because I won't listen to any of that rap garbage. It's a waste. They ruined music, and they ruined it for me. And quite frankly, I'll never listen to a rap record as long as I live. I listen to the oldies, 50s, 60s, 70s rock and roll. We'll be doing that too next month. Didn't get a chance to do any oldies in October, but we're gonna bring back the oldies in November, and as we try to attempt to be on the air just about every day here on GJRB Online. Playing programming, because I have so many programs, and like I said before, I'm going to be working with a friend of mine. His name is Brian Harrison. As a matter of fact, he might be an extra voice on this station, and we're planning to do a show together that way over at our other studios down in the church. So we're going to be doing that, and schedules could vary, but I'll be working on that schedule and trying to come up with spaces for programs. So let me know what programs you like to hear most on GJRB Online, and what programs you like to hear least on GJRB Online. And we'll work with that and narrow it down to 25 programs, or whatever I have, down to like maybe a few. And then the rest of the programs will be shuffled around in daily programming. So I'll be doing that. And that's how that's going to go. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. That's going to wrap it up for this program. I want to thank you so much once again for joining me for the Gary Russen program, Saturday Extra. Stayed on a little extra longer than I expected I was going to do, but that usually happens. I'm the only guy here, and the only guy, no one else to follow me, so this is the only show on today, so I decided to take an extra half hour. That's going to wrap it up with the Gary Russen program, Saturday Extra. Thanks a lot for Ed Delgado joining us in the chat room. Had a great time, and also to BJ for joining me over in the other chat room over on the Facebook. So that's going to wrap it up. See what happens tomorrow. I might do some Christian rock tomorrow. Never know. Otherwise, tomorrow It's going to be the church services are going to go public at 10:30. 11:30 will be our last Bible study in the book of Revelations, the final chapter. And then later on in the day, we'll see what happens. We'll do a positive rock show. Then Monday, no show. I got to go to the doctor. I got to go to my heart doctor on Monday. So no radio Monday. But they'll be back on Tuesday for Radio Land, the old-time radio classics, starting off with Mystery and the Adventures of Philip Marlowe on Radio Land. Until then, have yourself your best night ever. So long, everyone.
Recently, the owner of Facebook had to face Congress over personal information on Facebook users. In addition, users were saying that their postings were being deleted. Getting sick and tired of your censorship and your data being used without your permission? Do something about it now. Come to MeWe, the internet social site that values your freedom. No more deleted postings. Make a step to freedom. Sign up today. It's easy. Go to www.MeWe.com. That's MEWE. MeWe, the internet's free speech social site.
Imagine one day tuning around on your internet radio only to find a station playing old radio programs complete with commercials and thinking, what am I tuning into? The past? You might be, or it's just GJRB Online and Radio Land. A day of nothing but classic radio shows back to back with classic commercials in between. Like the days of radio. Almost like your computer is picking up signals through time. Closer than you'll ever get to time travel. Radio Land. The blues. The primary start to rock and roll music. The music in which artists express their feelings through music. This is a new blues show featuring the best of the blues, with new emerging artists getting their thrill of hearing their selections played along with the greats like Muddy Waters, B.B. King, and Etta James, along with a whole lot more.
The doors open soon.
To the Blues House on GJRB.
End times are upon us, and we need to know what's happening. Knowing the truth is key to survival. There are lots of news events going on in the world that have certain significance to end-time happenings. Listen, as men and women gather to discuss the news and how it lines up with Bible prophecy on the last 7 days. Uploaded as a podcast Wednesdays and run live every third Friday at 12 o'clock noon Central on GJRB.
This is the GJRB Online Network.